Painting in a kind of small collective studio. There was, in fact, I know the reason. Basically, the main reason was I didn't feel like I was a painter. I was surrounded by quite mature artists, and some were very, very good. And then when I sort of rocked up there thinking I was going to be an artist soon, wet out of art college, I just didn't fit in. I mean, I actually was so critical about what I was trying to paint. It was just awful stuff. So I eventually got to the point where I decided that's it. I was finished with art. I was finished with painting, and I'd always remember I just left the place. In fact, I left all my kit in the place and never went back to it.
And how old were you?
I think I was about 18. It's like having 35 years of creative silence where whilst I wasn't a painter or painting or drawing or doing anything like that, creatively my mind I was always looking at stuff. I'm also obviously as a viewer of art, but I think over the time I kept thinking to myself, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to it at some point. And one of the strangest things I used to do was as eBay started up, I was collecting art materials, like a bit like a hoarder. So when you got these job lots where an artist had packed in or died and they're trying to get rid of all the paintbrushes, I'd buy it all and then stick it in a drawer. So part of me was still there, but I was just not interested in picking up the paintbrush at all, really. I was really struggling. I had what I would call the white canvas syndrome. So, you look at it, and minis were like metre by metre canvases, and I'm staring at this like snow of a canvas. And I just needed to try and find something to break that line of the whiteness. And I did try things. I was thinking, like, what about charcoal? What about, washing it with a bit of colour or breaking it that way? But it just didn't feel right. So I went and bought about 5 or 6 cans of Montana car spray, or basically it's a graffiti spray. And I just took the 2 canvases outside and just went at it like I was some sort of graffiti artist. It completely no way and direction. I just wanted to hit it, and that broke the mould. I took the canvases back into the spare room, and then slowly but surely I just emptied all my mind on these canvases from, I guess, the past 30 years. What kind of got me after those first two paintings, which were very abstract and very kind of almost mixed media as well. There was all sorts of sort of collage into some of them. I actually then had this moment which hit me again. It was about being qualified. I know it sounds really weird, this, but I felt like I wasn't qualified to do those sort of paintings because they were too abstract. I was just emptying my mind. It meant nothing to anyone else. So I think what happened then is I kind of sharpened the pencil, if you know what I mean, and I sort of drilled down a little bit more into the subject of landscape and crossing the borders between a conventional painting and a bit of an abstract. There's 2 things, I guess, in the sort of creative mind of Simon Blackley. You've got the sort of the painting side, and then you've also got the music side. Both are very important, and I think both of them actually work together in some cases. So I never really stopped playing around with music over the 30 years, and that was a little experiment of being creative. But the way the art came in later on. There was a little bit of entwined work going on. I mean, I always listen to music when I'm painting, and that's actually quite important. I have to be in the right mind and have the right type of music, and often what I'd be doing is when I'm doing sort of portraits where they're quite focused and you've got to concentrate, I'd actually keep playing the same track, almost looping itself, and that just keeps everything stable for me in a way. I don't lose the plot if something's going wrong. Music's important in the space I work with. I think actually when I look at what I can do with a pencil, I'm more of a draftsman. You know, I measure. I'm very, very curious about making sure the pencil marks are in the right space and the measures are correct. And my sort of life drawing, which is again a big part of what I've done in the past, was always technically done, not very loose, if you know what I mean. It was very calculated, and that for me is important before I go to paint. I want to make sure everything's in the right space, in the right place. It's a bit of it kind of bogs me down sometimes because I want to be looser, but I know I need to get that drawing correct right at the start, and then the looseness starts with the painting. I go tight, and then I end up right at the end of the painting. I'm almost like sort of in an abstract way throwing the paint down and the marks down. It's interesting you say like about leaving the marks in, leaving sort of the measure marks in. I like that because it tells me a story, and it actually, I hope when people look at the paintings they go, oh yeah, I can see how he's got that, or where he's come with that. It's a little bit of secret history that you can pull out from the painting. I'm more comfortable now, so I think when I started painting in 2018, or when I came back to painting, I was very uncomfortable painting, so everything was a bit of a challenge, everything was a bit of criticism, self-criticism. And I think where I am now is I've got a bit more conviction about myself. I actually feel like I've got an inner qualification to go out and sort of paint a portrait, or even, you know, just effectively go and take any subject matter, apply my process to it, and actually produce a painting. I do these self-portraits. I think originally it was like a practice and exercise, but when I've been doing the portraits the past few years, and I'm looking into myself, and actually I'm sort of seeing things like differences, like how I'm aging. How weird's that? You know, you're looking at yourself and think, bloody hell! I had 3 years ago I had dark hair, now I've got grey hair, and you know, looking at your eye formations changing, and you know, there's a little bit of that, and it does make you look at yourself. I'm not actually, you know, self-critical about myself, and then sometimes the way I paint myself, I make myself look a lot more tired than I am. But it's just a nice way of looking at it, and I hope, you know, maybe in another 3 or 4 years, if I do a sort of an exhibition just highlighting and showing that, you know, first portrait to where we've got to, that'd be quite an interesting story, I think. So I think that 30-year gap just allowed everything to, you know, to sort itself out. And it, like I say, it's not been an easy thing, and I've had to kind of rework and relearn and kind of educate myself to be, you know, to prove it to myself that I can actually paint. And it doesn't stop. I think challenges are always there. You know, I think there's always something that you need to be, you know, focusing on and challenging on. And